It seems we are all exhausted these days. Between school, work, and social life, it can feel like there's hardly any time for sleep. It also feels like we've started bonding over this shared sleep deprivation. This trend is disturbing. According to many somnologists and sleep scientists, sleep disorders are well on the rise. They've reached epidemic levels. According to a study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, per 100,000 people, the prevalence of narcolepsy, obstructive sleep apnea, and periodic limb movement disorder increased by 14, 41, and 30% respectively between 2013 and 2016. According to the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, quote, getting the right amount of uninterrupted sleep at the right time of day is key to one's overall health. About 50 to 70 million Americans have sleep or wakefulness disorders. Sleep deficiency and untreated sleep disorders are associated with a growing number of health problems, including heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and certain cancers. Hello, my name is Tegan Yeomans, and I am fascinated by sleep. Since the 5th grade, my relationship with sleep has been less than ideal. At 16, though, I was diagnosed with a rare and chronic neurological disorder known as narcolepsy. It was a whole ordeal getting to that point of diagnosis, but I'm fortunate now to have it. Before then, though, my unregulated sleep had rippling, adverse effects throughout my life. Since receiving my diagnosis, it has become my goal to learn more about the subject and bring awareness to others about the difficulties those with sleep disorders face in daily life, especially those of adolescents, as they grow and move through life in a world where more and more people are facing chronic sleep deprivation. That brings me to today's subject. Are sleep disorders really on the rise? And if so, why aren't we doing anything to remedy this issue? This is undoubtedly a very big issue to address, so to make things easier, I think we should approach the situation by looking at the different stages of life and how people's relationships with sleep change as they grow. Let's begin with adolescence. As we know, high school is a turbulent time for any teen. When dealing with increased schoolwork, extracurriculars, jobs, relationships, and puberty, getting the right amount of sleep is super important. Unfortunately, that is not a reality or a possibility for most teens. Here's what sleep scientist Wendy Troxel has to say about it.
Sleep deprivation among American teenagers is an epidemic. Only about 1 in 10 gets the 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night recommended by sleep scientists and pediatricians. Many of the, shall we say, unpleasant characteristics that we chalk up to being a teenager, moodiness, irritability, laziness, depression, could be a product of chronic sleep deprivation.
I am Graydon Yeomans, and I'm currently in 10th grade.
I know when I was in high school, I was experiencing the peak of my symptoms of narcolepsy. Now, I see a lot of the same struggles within my brother.
Just like regular, 24/7, I'm always tired. I can't go to bed easily, and when I do go to bed, I can sleep for ever, and I won't wake up.
According to the Australian Department of Health and Victoria State Government, teens' body clocks naturally shift, making them tired later. Knowing this, how is it fair that we start high schools around 7:45 each morning? In fact, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, schools should start at or later than 8:30 to encourage more healthy sleep habits. These early start times only work against teens' physiology and contributes to the issue of chronic sleep deprivation, something which negatively affects mental, physical, and academic performance. Next, I'd like to examine some factors impacting sleep in college, since this is often a time full of firsts and new freedoms. For this section, I decided to interview a friend of mine and fellow Western student on their experience with sleep in this environment.
My name is Jack Shapira. I'm a junior and I'm a creative writing major.
Specifically, I asked them what is keeping them from getting higher quality sleep. Here's what they had to say.
Do roommates count? Is that a valid answer?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like not having a room to myself makes it harder to sleep for sure. I don't know. I think I probably spend too much time like on a screen before I go to sleep. I think I would probably sleep better if I didn't do that. Yeah, and definitely if I have like work that I know I need to do the next day, like I'll be stressed about that.
Jack raises some good points. For a lot of students, this is their first time living on their own and sharing a room. This forced proximity can be challenging, especially when you don't have control over other people's habits. Also, without authority figures around to monitor your habits and behaviors, it can be alluring to give in to temptations like phones or parties and prioritize those over sleep. Add on the stress of a college course load, scholarships, and full-time jobs, and it's no wonder so many college kids are sleep deprived. Next, I'd like to examine what impacts sleep in adulthood. For this section, I figured who better to interview than my lovely parents.
My name is Kara Yeomans, and I do not work outside the home.
That's my mom.
Well, my name is Stephen Edward Yeomans, and I am currently a correctional deputy, a corrections officer at the Grace Harbor County Jail.
And that's my dad. First, I asked them about their history with sleep and sleep disorders.
I struggle with insomnia, but don't have anything formally diagnosed in the sleep disorder realm.
This is noteworthy, considering that insomnia has been found to run in the family.
A long time ago, before you were ever born, I do believe, I went through a sleep study, and I was, I guess you call it, diagnosed with, the doctor put it, very mild sleep apnea.
This is also noteworthy, considering that sleep apnea has certain genetic and lifestyle factors. Next, I asked them what they think is keeping them from attaining higher quality sleep.
Sharing a bed is obviously, your condition is whatever they're doing. So if they snore, if they flop around, that certainly can affect it. I will say though that I don't wake up out of sleep. It's harder to wake me up during sleep. I used to wake up, partly from having kids, but partly, just that mom radar, like any little sound, and I'd be at least aware and listening,
What do you think keeps you from getting higher quality sleep than you currently get, if anything? And this can be, I don't know, like you said, like work, it could be sleep conditions, like the room you sleep in, anything.
Boy, it's a lot of that stuff. It's work. I work too much and my schedule rotates too much. It's this room. Some of my sleep has to be done during the day. So it's a combination of working too much. So then I come home and I throw something in my mouth to eat, and then I'm tired, so I've been working all day. So I'll go to bed. Well, now I've, eaten something I probably shouldn't have because I'm being lazy. And then I try and go to sleep and I don't feel good. Or coming home and maybe spending too much time on my phone in the morning after a graveyard shift. So now the sun's out and the kids are out. Now I'm trying to fight that. Or I don't have much of a structure in this room that I think would help. And part of it's just my laziness,
What my dad had to say really stuck with me. This is a common theme I hear among those who struggle with sleep. They often blame themselves. According to Professor Matthew Walker, PhD, this is not solely an individual issue. This is largely a systemic issue. Governments across the globe have neglected to address the raging sleep epidemic. There hasn't been any legislation enacted to address the issue, no bills, no campaigns. Oftentimes, doctors aren't even aware of the scope of this issue. Not only this, but there is a disappointing lack of communication about healthy sleep habits and proper sleep hygiene within the medical field. As Matthew Walker came to find, doctors only received an average 1.5 hours of education on the subject of sleep. He also states that this is a community issue. Sleep education is not given the same time and care in schools as things like sex education or drug and alcohol units in health classes. Because of this lack of education across the board, we've normalized maladaptive and unhealthy sleep habits. Most of us don't even realize that something is wrong to begin with, because the problem of awareness is that widespread. Ultimately, this leads to folks blaming themselves for their suffering without an inkling of how to enact change. Though this research may sound dire, there is hope. Though there may be factors in our lives that we can't change, like roommates, work schedules, and a lack of legislation protecting our health, there are things we can do on the individual level. If you suspect something is wrong with your sleep or you are unsatisfied with the quality of sleep you get, being aware of that and bringing it up with your physician is a good step. After that, researching things like sleep hygiene might be important. You'd be amazed by how beneficial a nightly routine can be. Also, monitoring your physiology and sleep cycles with something like an Oura Ring could be beneficial. This is something my mom actually uses, and she finds it incredibly invaluable, especially since she lives with chronic illness and chronic pain. All of this to say that though the current situation may be bleak, there are things you can do to improve your health. When you don't sleep well, you don't feel good, so you deserve to improve your sleep.